Well, Amber's message is really timely because we actually have a panel coming on next that's going to be talking a lot about community initiatives. So as they close me in, I'm going to invite Jason Dykstra up here on stage as the panel moderator to announce all of the panelists. But I lost Jason. He was there. Jason, where did you go? Where is he? Oh, there he is. I lost you. That's not good. Come on up here. You can introduce your panel and take it away.
I love you, Jason. I love you, Jason.
Go on up, guys.
Is that on? All right. Wow. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having our panel here. To my right is David Yoon, who is one of the co-conspirators. Hello. Hello. Hey. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Put it closer. I put it there.
I'll just hold it. How about that? So to my right is David Yoon, who is one of the contributors to Ignite Waterloo. That happens here in Waterloo. To my left is James Howe, who's the founder of Social Media Breakfast, Waterloo region. To his left is Rami Nassar, who is one of the co-founders of TEDx Waterloo. And to his left, the wonderful Hillary Abel, who is, runs many different events within the community, one being Steel Rails, another one Sink a Set, which many people go to, especially that are here right now. And also, she runs a publication called RQ Magazine with all some of the happenings that are within the community here. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the floor to David here first, and just to tell us a story about how the people of this region have been affected by Ignite Waterloo.
Okay, it works. So back in 2009, it was just a little idea that to bring something awesome to the region, and all it was a single tweet looking for volunteers. And on the basis of that, we were able to get over a dozen different volunteers. And shortly after, created a website, a couple other tweets. We got 16 speakers, sold out the event. And we've been doing that ever since. And we're looking at our 7th event, October 27th, here at the Tannery. We've sold out every single one since then. And it was just based on a tweet. And I remember Rami was the reason I got involved, actually, with Ignite. He sent out a tweet very early on. And I remember talking to him after that first meeting, and he was just, flabbergasted, frankly, that he was able to bring this many people to get involved, to volunteer their time, to bring something awesome to the region. And he's subsequently gone on and is helping to do that with TEDx Waterloo. And what used to take weeks, if not months of effort, was really pulled together in about 140 characters. And that's the great thing about Twitter that we found. I mean, email and Facebook, it sort of implies this relationship. Chances are I know you by name, I've met you. In my case, we probably had a meal together at some point or another. But Twitter is like this sort of, it encourages promiscuity. It's like the slut of the social media world. It encourages sort of like random anonymous hookups, right? You do want to follow these people that you've never really met before and that you'd like to maybe meet, right? And it's great for that. It allows you to create this sort of network effect. And I follow a ton of people locally, and they sort of amplifies certain messages about this conference, about other conferences, and if you want to extend the metaphor, it's like this orgy of information. And that's really kind of awesome. And that's sort of what's happening with Ignite. We've created this orgy of information, and now we have this ecosystem, this sort of mass of people, arms and legs out in the audience, and they are part of our conference, and they're just as invested as the speakers up on the stage. And you get this great sort of synergy, which I hate using that word, but synergy of ideas. And we're finding with subsequent events is that lots of great things are happening out in the audience as well. And the example I like to use is Rob Fraga, who's here in the audience. He spoke at an Ignite 5, and he talked about his involvement with 5 Days for the Homeless. And is he over there? Oh, there. Hi. There. Here. Attention whore. No, he talked about his involvement with 5 Days for the Homeless, which speaks to the homeless situation in Canada. And it so motivated an audience member that she brought the initiative to the University of Waterloo. And in their first year of running the program, they exceeded their donation goals. And this is going to be something that's a recurring event for years to come. And really, it was like 5 minutes, 20 slides that auto-advance every 15 seconds, motivated someone to action. And I think that's a really powerful thing that Ignite gets to do for the region.
All of a sudden. James, how about yourself? What are some things that Social Media Breakfast Waterloo region has kind of contributed to the community?
Well, one of the first things that I really discovered about Social Media Breakfast Waterloo region was that, like social media itself, it really wasn't as much about the tools that we were talking about as it was about people. People came because they wanted to learn something about social media. They wanted the educational opportunity, but what they really took away from it was the connections that they made with people that were there. We have a very diverse crowd coming. People ask me what our target audience is, and I say people who want to learn about social media. That's people who are kind of just dipping their toes in the water because they want to figure out how they can use it, and people who are fully immersed. And both of those groups have something to learn from each other. In one case, it might just be remembering that not everybody is fully immersed. But we have small businesses, charities, tech companies, public sector groups. We have all kinds of different people, and what we do is we bring them all together. One of the greatest successes really has been we started to encourage people stay afterwards and to talk and to network, and that now takes up as much time, if not more time, than the actual sessions. And so people are coming because maybe they might have heard about it on social media, but what they're really doing is they're making connections with real people, and therefore really fulfilling, having the best chance to have a fulfilling relationship with other people.
Yeah, it's really like, by what you're saying, and I've been to a few social media breakfasts for Waterloo region, and it's like spawning a community within a community as well, right? So I guess one of the great parts about Twitter is that we get to engage with people online and meet them offline in a lot of cases as well. But quite often, we don't always get to meet some of these people, right? So I guess, Rami, have we been desensitized to us just as an avatar, and why?
So, okay, like Madonna. So I think that there is some of that element of desensitization when you're tweeting, because it feels like you're just typing on a keyboard, but in fact, there's anywhere between 1 and 1 million people who might read those 140 characters. And sometimes people forget not to be douchebags and not to, you know, realize that there's a human on the other end of it. Can I say douchebag?
You have choice now.
Anyway, I'm really interested in sort of that other side of it, and the fact that people have this feeling of anonymity, but if you ask some of those same people, would they get up on stage and broadcast to an audience of 2,000 people that this restaurant sucks, or hey, I looted this store during this riot? You know, people forget about that. It's not an anonymous platform. I laughed all those people in Vancouver who broadcast which stores they were rioting from and looting, and ended up getting arrested, getting fired from their jobs. It's bonkers, right? Because they just assume that they can put this out into the air. There is no real undo button. You can delete a tweet, but I think it's archived somewhere in the internet. I'm not sure where, but so I'd be really curious to hear the other panelists' thoughts on, I guess, the dark side of some of this stuff.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, like I said, 2009 doesn't seem like that long time ago, but honestly, I'm a fairly introverted person. I need certain tools in order to have a conversation and to sort of insinuate myself into a larger group. And that's exactly what Twitter provided. Rami and some others talked about getting something to the region, like Ignite Waterloo. And, you know, I followed them. I know a little bit about them. It provided enough of a tool for me to engage in a conversation and to sort of push past my introversion and get out there and volunteer my time. And I hope that we sort of hold on to that sort of ability. What's happening now is, good or bad, social media is often getting co-opted as far as business goes. And for myself personally, I want to avoid, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person, this sort of insular, inward-looking cliques that often do happen, and this sort of mutual appreciation society. It becomes harder for those people on the outside looking in to insinuate themselves into the conversation. And yes, you have a voice, you have these followers out there, but at the same time, it's important that you are interacting with individuals on a person-to-person basis and not, well, I can't talk to you because you have a clout score of under 40. I mean, I worry that we veer off into, and I guess we can use the word, douche, but there's a reason why that word is so apt. And I never want to be a barrier to other people to get involved in a conversation, I guess.
I guess one thought I have, though, is actually almost the opposite. Sometimes I find social media, and maybe Twitter in particular, to be almost too positive. Like, if you're not allowed to be critical. And so sometimes I feel, especially in my more personal use of social media, like I'm kind of breaking a social media convention. But I think if it's going to be a place where we're going to be sharing ideas, it's also a place where ideas need to be challenged or questioned, or at least it can't always be rah-rah, you know, you're great.
So a place for real discussion then.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Hillary, you were going to say?
I was going to say that something that I've kind of believed ever since I started using Twitter, which I think was in about 2009, and I had used other social sites before, but when I came to Twitter, I was like, this is such an interesting bridge to actually talking to people in real life, and to get people to, particularly like I find with Gen Ys or millennials, that we really want to be active from our keyboard and our screens, but then when you ask people to like actually take action, leave their house, do something physical, physical in the sense of like going to a bar to have a drink, it's harder for us, right? It's like we want to just have this online life. And so I think that Twitter's an interesting bridge to that, because it's really opens a lot of friendships up and relationships up, so that you can meet someone, you can know who's going to something, you can feel really comfortable that there's going to be, you know, your system or your support group there or whatever. But it's important, I think, that we take it to that physical level and that actual real life level. And I found that in the events that I've done. I don't know if you guys agree.
Well, no, I think you know, what you've done with Steel Rails in particular is a great example of that. Because I think the first time I met you, we were at a culture camp, and you were talking about how difficult it was to get people out of their houses and get them active. And now Steel Rails, which is a moving art exhibition on a train, sells out in, what, 12 hours or less?
Yeah, it's pretty, well, it's interesting too to kind of cross those barriers between online communication and real life communication as well, right? Like for all of us sitting here, I met each and every one of you over Twitter before I ever talked to you in person, right? So it's amazing to see, it's always very refreshing and very nice to see people that are consistent both online and offline as well, right?
Well, actually, and to that is the only reason we have that sort of relationship is that it's the same with Rami and Hillary and James is we speak in our own voice, right? There's a lot of noise basically out there, and it's great to have sort of platitudes and sort of gung-ho enthusiasm, but you do also have to have your own voice. There has to be, for me, at least this connection that I know you as a person, and it helps bridge that gap when I meet you in person. And as long as people can do that, it really helps me as far as, you know, starting up a conversation.
And I think that's part of like the authenticity of you being, you know, we're only moving to being more online and more social online. And so I think a couple of people said it this morning, just that authenticity of when people meet you in real life, there's no disconnect between who they think you are through your tweets. And then kind of back to David's earlier point that like it can't always all be amazing and butterflies and rainbows because that's not how everybody's day is. I don't know.
Now, we have a lot of, you know, four different founders and participants in events, and Ignite and Social Media Breakfast and TEDx are more almost corporate events. So Hillary, I'm wondering, your events are very grassroots. How has that affected the community, or how's the community affected the events that you run?
Well, I think it's interesting, Amber's point about things needing to, you know, closing the gap or having the full cycle, because I think that's grassroots events have that by nature, that we're taking something from the community, we're giving something to the community, and so, you know, there's something holistic there. I don't know, at Steel Rails, we raised a bunch of volunteer hours this year. A couple started dating, and I'm pretty sure a baby was conceived last year in the 7 Minutes in Heaven booth. So I don't know.
Possibly on the train.
Social media really bringing people together. So that's about all the time that we have today.
Well, if I may, just...
Oh, for sure.
There is Social Media Breakfast started in the States by a guy called Brian Person, but it's all across the United States. In Ontario, if you're not familiar with it, there is one in Ottawa, there's one in Stratford as well. And if your town doesn't have one, you could probably start one easy enough. In Toronto and Ottawa as well, there's Third Tuesday run by Joe Thornley, who is also another good source.
Definitely. And the community that you're in, make sure you seek out some of these opportunities. You can meet some absolutely amazing people there, both online and offline. So thanks everyone for coming, and be sure to talk to each person about a little bit more information about their event. They're very passionate people up here, and they would love to talk your ear off and listen to what you have to say about their events as well.
Can I just say one more thing? We were talking earlier, just out in the hallway, about this whole just needing to keep these communities and networks very open, and how to break down the barriers of when people feel like they can't get involved, or they can't talk to somebody, or they can't go out to tweet up because of whatever reason. So I think that all of us are pretty interested in that, and if you have an idea or you want to talk about that, or you have some best practices that you use, I think we'd love to hear it, so find us after.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.